So you're all very welcome to today's presentation on postgraduate psychology at NUI Galway. And thank you all very much for being here. We wish we could, see you all in person, but the advantage here is that, people can check this out, and we'll have a recording so that you can come back to it and see it later. Now I'm going to pull up the chat. So if you're interested and you've got a question, please feel free to pop your questions into the chat. We may not. What we will do is we will address the questions in the chat at the end of our individual talks as much as we can, given the time we have available to us. But what we can also do is we can provide answers in the chat afterwards as well. So we'll continue the chat as much as we can. Anything we can answer directly in the chat, we will. Okay, so what I've popped up there just for you now are links to slides and videos. At the moment, we only have a couple of sets of slides up there, but we will populate this OneDrive account with the slides and videos from today's session. So if you can click on that and then set that up for yourself. Okay, so what's psychology all about at NUI Galway? Well, we've been teaching psychology at NUI Galway since the 1970s, which is an awfully long time ago. It's even before I was born, which tells you exactly how long it is. The school was established by Professor Martin McHugh, and recently in 2013 we opened our new psychology building, which is one of the best buildings designed for psychology in the country. We have top-notch labs in our top floor. We have dedicated teaching rooms, PC labs, and so on. So really fantastic physical resources here at NUI Galway. And it's no surprise there that we are producing world-leading research, and our research is at the forefront of modern science. Particularly, we're working on research on the current pandemic, but we focus on two themes primarily. Those are brain and behavior, and health and well-being. So we are always trying to understand how it is the brain allows us to do what we do, and to understand that in detail. And then we're also looking at how understanding how and why people do what they do enables us to improve people's health and their well-being. We're also connected to our community. We are connected to the rural community, our local urban city community, and the national Irish community as well. So we do work that directly impacts a variety of communities across Ireland. And our graduates also contribute to the community in their roles as professional psychologists, either working in healthcare or in industry. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to cover today, these are the different specific programs we're going to cover, the options in psychology here at NUI Galway. So we have the higher diploma in psychology. We have two versions of that. We have the full higher diploma and the conversion higher diploma. And I'm going to talk about that. The director, Mark Elliott, is ill today and was unfortunately unable to give that talk. And that's if you're interested in transitioning into psychology. Either you have completed a psych studies undergrad, or you've completed another undergraduate degree and you want to move into psychology. Then Jenny McSharry is going to talk to you about the MSc in health psychology. This is if you want to specialize in health psychology, and this program is PSI accredited and requires an undergraduate in a PSI accredited degree. I will then talk about the Masters in Consumer Psychology, which is looking to use your psychology skills in industry. And so I'll be talking about that. And the remaining programs, including consumer psychology, require you to have a 2-1 or 1H in psychology or a relevant subject. So you can do these programs if you don't have a full psychology degree. So we have the MSc in clinical neuroscience, which Dr. Ciara Egan, who's here with us today, is going to tell you about. This is if you want to specialize in neuroscience and understanding the brain in detail. And then our final presentation is going to be Dr. Jennifer Holloway. And she's going to tell you about applied behavior analysis. So this is particularly interesting if you're interested in working with kids with developmental delay or intellectual disabilities, and you'd like to specialize in that area. Just to let you know also that there is a taught master's scholarship scheme valued at €1,500. And if you attain a first class honors in a level A primary degree, you can get a scholarship of up to €1,500 to reduce the fees for your course. Now, this is only for EU students, okay? So just to be aware of that. And the applications for that open in April 2022. Some people sometimes ask, what can I do if in psychology? What do these? What jobs can I do? So one that people are often interested in is clinical psychologist role or counseling psychologist role, which is similar, and those are employed in the HSE or charities or private sector. For that, you need a PSI accredited degree. You probably need a master's, and then you're going to do the clinical doctorate in psychology. Now, the clinical psychology, we are not covering the doctorate in clinical psychology today, but you also need about 3 to 10 years of experience. But any of the masters that we have here today would also help you along the road to clinical psychology. To become a health psychologist, you're employed by charities or private sector. It's PSI accredited undergraduate degree. You need a master's in health psychology and a PhD in health psychology practice. And so the route to that is through the master's in health psychology that you're going to learn about from Dr. McShard today. Applied behavior analysts work in the charities and the private sector, also some in HSE and a variety of different roles. You don't need a PSI accredited degree necessarily, and then you are going to get the master's in applied behavior analysis. If you're interested in becoming a lecturer or researcher, being employed by university or research bodies such as the ESRI, then you're going to focus on getting a BA in a relevant subject, a PhD in a relevant subject, and any of the masters that you see here today would set you on that road. For the non-psychology professions, for example, consumer research, consulting, working with charities and sustainability and so on, then there are no necessary requirements there in terms of undergrad and postgrad, but experience is what determines your applicability there. But the Master's Consumer Psychology is potentially of use for you in that direction. We also have a number of structured PhD programs, and if you're interested in these, then it's worth having a look at our website in more detail. Hopefully, it's working out there, and you'll be able to email the blue links in these slides will allow you to email the directors of these programs directly. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to lead off on I'm going to introduce the first of the programs we're going to speak today, which is the Higher Diploma in Psychology, Full and Conversion. Okay, so I'm just going to switch over and change the slides. Okay, so welcome. I'm going to tell you about the Higher Diploma in Psychology. So there are 2 programs. There's the full program, which is 2 years long, and the conversion program, which is 1 year long. And the difference is that to get on the full program, you don't need any psychology in your undergraduate degree. To get on the conversion program, you need to have 60 ECTS of psychology in your undergraduate degree. This is primarily designed for people who completed our psychological studies program here at NUI Galway. So the Higher Diploma in Psychology Full, that's the 2-year program, is designed for graduates who've already completed a higher degree in a field other than psychology, but you want to switch into psychology because you see you'd like to either you find the subject interesting or you want to move forward with psychology as a career. By completing the Higher Diploma Full, you cover all of the PSI accredited requirements. So you have exactly the same accreditation then as someone who's completed the BSc or BA in psychology. You apply online via CRM Recruit, and similarly as you would for all of our programs today. For the higher diploma in psychology full, there are 8 places on the program. So competition is high. Typically, you're looking at a high 2-1 or first to get on this program. The program is accredited by PSI and satisfies what's called Graduate Basis for Registration, or GBR, for the PSI, for the Psychological Society of Ireland. It qualifies graduates for entry into postgraduate professional programs. So again, if you want to get into a clinical doctorate, or you want to get onto a health psychology master's or PhD program, those require PSI accredited programs. And so you will need this before you can proceed. The course content includes the vast range of topics in psychology, from developmental to the theories of personality. And you will also, with the kind of content or what psychology is about, you will also be doing a lot of work doing the actual practices of psychology. So quantitative and qualitative research methods and experimental psychology. In the second year, then you focus on the history of psychology, go further in your advanced research methods, but the primary focus in your second year is the research project in psychology, which provides 25% of the credits in the second year of the HT full. So the future opportunities from the higher diploma are to become a professional psychologist, specializing, for example, in educational, occupational, counseling, forensic, health, or clinical psychology. Or you might wish to take on a research degree in psychology, and that might be an MSc or a PhD. So again, the higher diploma full is a 2-year program. The higher diploma in conversion, the higher diploma in psychology conversion, is a 1-year program. And this 1-year program is designed for people who already have 60 ECTS of psychology in their undergrad. So the higher diploma psychology conversion, 1-year full-time program, designed for students who've completed the BA in psychological studies here at NUI Galway or its equivalent. So if you've accumulated 60 ECTS of psychology in your undergraduate program, you can apply for this 1-year conversion. And what you're getting is a top-up to give you the full PSI accredited degree that you will need to move on to do professional psychology. You apply via CRM as before. There are 16 places on this program, but again, the competition is quite high. We have approximately 120 students in our final year of psych studies. So, and many of them would like to continue on and to specialize in professional psychology. So it's typically a high 2-1 or first class honors to be accepted on the higher diploma conversion. By combining the higher diploma conversion with BA in psych studies, you cover the course content equivalent to the NUI Galway BSc psychology or BA psychology, and the program is accredited by PSI. So if you've got your 60 ECTS and you've got the higher diploma conversion, you have graduate basis for registration with the PSI. And so that allows you to take on professional programs. And so this is a one-year program, and it's quite intense because you're doing a lot of the practice of really doing psychology. So you're doing quantitative and qualitative research methods, you're doing work in SPSS, you're doing experimental psychology, and you're doing a big research project. So it's in a sense, if you've come through psych studies, you already know a lot about the psychology and what it's all about, but you haven't any experience of doing psychology really. And so here we train you up in how to do psychology, to engage in psychological research and produce papers and produce research. That's what this program is all about. So we cover also advanced topics in psychology. So the future opportunities allows, again, similarly to completing either an undergraduate in psychology that's PSI accredited, or the HTIP full, or if you do the psych studies plus this HTIP conversion, you can then progress as a professional psychologist and undertake training in research in psychology as well. Okay, so Anyone got any questions before we move on? We've got a couple of minutes there. No, that's great. So, Jenny, if you want to take over now, you can share your screen and take us away whenever you're ready.
Okay. Will do. Thanks very much, Dennis, and welcome everyone. Brilliant to see you here today. So we're going to have a brief 10-minute break from Dennis, and then we're going back to him again, I think, to hear about consumer psychology. And I'm going to talk to you about the Masters in Health Psychology at NUI Galway. I'm the current director of the programme, and Professor Molly Byrne is the deputy director, and Molly's going to be taking over as director from January. So just to tell you a little bit about the programme, there's 2 ways to complete it. So it's either 1 year full-time or 2 years part-time. And it's really all focused on the discipline of health psychology. So it was established in 1994. So that makes it one of the oldest Masters in Health Psychology programs in Europe and internationally as well. It's accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland. So we just went through accreditation last year. So we're accredited for the next 5 cohorts. And it's the only PSI accredited Masters in Health Psychology in Ireland. What the program is aiming to do is to help graduates have a comprehensive knowledge base in health psychology at a postgraduate level. So most of our undergraduate programs do have a health psychology module included, but the aim with the Masters is to take that to the next level and to really look at the discipline of health psychology in more depth. We have a focus on research, and we aim to train students to conduct really high quality health psychology research and to develop the method skills to do that. And also to prepare students to undertake future training. So a lot of our graduates go on to other areas such as clinical psychology or to become practitioner health psychologists as well, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Maybe just to take a step back for a minute and describe what we mean by health psychology. So some of you might be familiar with the discipline of what it means, and maybe some of you aren't. So like Dennis outlined in that intro, we can understand psychology as the scientific study of mental and behavioral functioning. So how and why we do what we do. And health psychology is very much about taking those processes and applying them to the area of health, illness, and wellness. So things like the psychological and behavioral processes in health, illness, and healthcare. So how do we stay healthy? How do we support people to stop smoking? How do we support people to exercise? How do people respond when they do become ill? So how people adjust and cope with illness, either acute illness or chronic illness. And how do we interact with healthcare as well? So what makes us go to the GP? What makes us attend for screening, for example? So they're all the type of things that we think about. So it's really about the psychological aspects of health and wellness. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has been an opportunity to really showcase a lot of what health psychology can do. And a number of the members of the program team had very high profile roles within the pandemic and advising policy and practitioners. So for example, Professor Molly Byrne, she was an advisor to NEFID in thinking about their strategy in relation to COVID-19 and was really prominent in the media as well, talking about health behaviours in particular. So one of the key areas of focus for health psychology is thinking about our health behaviours and how we can support people in healthier behaviours. Similarly, another key behaviour that we're very interested in relation to COVID-19 is the vaccine. So why people take their vaccines, why people don't, why people might take their boosters now. And Dr. Jane Walsh, another member of the program team, led a piece of research around this and had a lot of media attention on this idea of vaccine hesitancy and maybe how we could support people in taking the vaccine. In terms of the course content, so this is the course content for the one-year program. So in semester one, there's 3 main taught modules. So one focusing on health promotion and behavior change, which as you can imagine, is very much focused on behavior. One of the things that students do is try and change one of their own behaviors and reflect on the process. And they debate the idea of individual versus population approaches to behavior change. There's a module on perspectives in health psychology, where we think about where does health psychology fit within other disciplines? So how does it relate to something like behavioral medicine? How does it fit with health economics? So to try and clarify what is unique about health psychology and the collaborations we can have with other disciplines. There's also a module on research methods in health psychology, where students are supported to do a systematic review. They do qualitative research, and they also think about professional health psychology and what it means to be a health psychologist. And that systematic review skill in particular is one that's really valued by employers. So a lot of our students have gone on to get employment based on their ability to conduct systematic reviews. In semester 2, there's modules focused on psychological processes in illness and healthcare. This focuses on adjustment and coping with chronic illness, and also a module on biobehavioral processes in health and illness. So this is thinking a bit more about the biological sides of things, how stress impacts the body and those more physical understandings and their links with psychology and health as well. Over the course of the year and up until the summer term, so the course runs from September until August, students are also supported to complete a research project. And we've had really nice research projects and links with different stakeholders over the years. So we do a lot of research with Cree Heart and Stroke Charity, for example, linking in with the Diabetes Clinical Care Programme. So nearly all of the projects that our students do are very applied and linking in with members of the public, healthcare professionals and policymakers as well. For the part-time programme, it's quite similar. The difference is that part-time students in their first year, they don't take the health promotion and behavior change module, and they don't do the dissertation. So those 2 aspects are held over for their second year. In terms of content, maybe 3 things that I think the program makes it really interesting for students is the outreach. So as I mentioned, a lot of our members of the program team are very involved in national and international research and in advising policymakers on health. And I think that makes the content that we cover applied and interesting to students. We also have expert seminars. So for all our modules, we ask national or international speakers to come and talk of their experience of health psychology, which is a really nice link for students. And of course, the program is accredited by PSI as well, which is really important if you're thinking about moving on in the area of health psychology. Thinking about career opportunities, a lot of our graduates go on to research roles, so research assistant roles. For example, we have excellent training in research on the Masters in Health Psychology, and I think we have a reputation for that. A number of our students go on to future training. So if students are interested in becoming practitioner health psychologists, at NUI Galway, we have the only practitioner health psychology PhD program in Ireland. It's the PhD in health psychology practice. It links on directly from the Masters in Health Psychology, and it supports students in completing a PhD, but also developing the competencies of a practitioner health psychologist. So a number of our master's students have gone on to that program. Students do also go on and do more traditional PhDs, just focused on research, and students do go on to clinical psychology training as well. So that's a route that a number of our graduates go on to, is to apply to the clinical psychology program at NUI Galway or elsewhere. Thinking of other types of roles, so maybe if people aren't interested in further training or working within the academic setting, a number of our graduates have gone on to health psychology roles within the community. So say, for example, a past graduate, Dr. Lisa Hines, is now the head of programs at Cree Heart and Stroke Charity. In the last couple of years as well, there's been a real appetite for our graduates within industry. So we've had a number of graduates move on, particularly in the digital health space, have gone into roles thinking about how health psychology can inform more industry and digital health. So we've had a nice throughway from our program into industry as well. I know sometimes what people are interested in is, well, what do I do directly when the program is over? So what happens, you know, the year after or the couple of years after? So we've tried to support students who are thinking about the Masters in Health Psychology by having blog posts from past graduates. So if you access the slides and click on the link here, or if you Google for the Health Psychology NUI Galway blog, you'll see graduates from a number of different years talking about what they did just after the Masters, what their next career pathway was. And I think that can be helpful for people in thinking of their next steps. We also have some nice videos available. A number of years ago, we celebrated 21 years of the Masters in Health Psychology. And we have videos available of graduates a number of years past their qualification talking about the different career routes they took. So some of those videos might be useful or interesting to you as well. To think about applying, like Dennis said, it's all through the online postgraduate applications system for all of our postgraduate programs. There's a requirement for a PSI accredited undergraduate degree or an international equivalent. The selection is based on academic merit, so a 2-1 or higher is typically the students that are accepted onto the program, and it's a rolling deadline. So what that means is it's best to apply early. Applications are open now, and if you meet the requirements, you'll be offered a place now, and then we'll close once the program is full. So it does make sense to apply early if possible. Maybe just to finish up by saying, I did this program myself 12 years ago now. And one of the nicest things about the Masters program is the community there is. So there is a photo here from that 21st birthday celebration where all past graduates and externs for the program and stakeholders got together and talked about health psychology and everything that we've achieved. And I think by doing the program, you really join that national and international community of health psychology, and we can really support you in your future careers in health psychology based on the links that we've developed over the program. We have a Twitter, so @HealthPsychNUIG, so do follow that if you're interested, and very happy to answer any questions. Thanks, everyone. So I think there were some questions in the chat box. I'm not sure if any are specific to me. I can have a look after that, after this.
Yeah, hi Jenny. Someone was asking about when you can apply, which you just answered, and another person was asking about which programs you can apply to if you just have if you've just finished with a psychological studies degree. So, as I was saying, if you want to apply to the health psychology program, you'd have to do the HDIP first. Yeah. But if you want to, the remaining 3 programs we're talking about do take people with a psych studies undergraduate. So yeah. Those are the 2 questions we've got so far. So thanks for those of you who've popped in the questions. It's great to see you're active out there.
Thanks, Dennis.
No problem. Okay, so I'm going to pop up now, and after this, you won't have to listen to me anymore. I promise. I don't have 2 or 3 more programs, hidden away that I'm going to tell you about. So. So we're going to talk about the MSc in Consumer Psychology, and we're very proud of all the programs we have here at NUI Galway. All of our programs serve different interests, but we all work together as well. So Jenny and I work a lot together, for example, and we all benefit from the variety of different perspectives, and neuroscience and applied behavior analysis that we can all bring to different problems. So, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about consumer psychology today. And so consumer psychology is the study of how we relate to the transaction of goods and services we use every day. And this is whether we are retail consumers, buyers, or service users. We're often looking at the question, why do we buy? But the consumer in consumer psychology is actually much broader than that. So we can really look at any transaction in which you're doing something or giving something with the expectation of something in return. And we want to get into that transaction and learn how it is that that's operating. How is it that you choose to, for example, today, how did you choose to give your time and your attention to what we're going to talk about today? And that's a consumption activity that we want to understand, because we want more people to learn and understand about psychology and what we do here at NY Galway. So when we think about consumers and consumer psychology, it's much broader than just thinking about, the people in Aldi buying products off of shelves, though of course we're interested in that too. So we access we're all about developing and informing consumer and customer insights. And so in order to generate customer insights, we focus on data and theory. And so data is what are our customers or our consumers doing right now? And our question then is, the theory then is, why are our customers doing this, and what would take for them to do something different? And we're at a very different point in time in consumer psychology, in that for much of the history of consumption, data was hard to get to. It was hard. You only really knew what was going on in your store, and nobody would tell you what was going on anywhere else. And you didn't even know very well what was happening in your store. If you think these days when we buy something, you use the barcode. So straight away, the stock is updated, saying that a product of that type has been sold. You know which products are sold together. Okay, so that kind of information, if you had a local shop, imagine 20 years ago, this kind of information wasn't available to you. So today, the problem is very different if we think of the history of consumer psychology, because we have much more data than we've ever had before. However, theory has not kept up with that. So we often have companies who are, quote unquote, drowning in data. That is, that they have too much data and they don't understand it. And the problem with data is, if you've got an opinion, you can often find data to substantiate it. And you need to be, that's why it's really important to educate ourselves in terms of the theory of why people do what they do. So just to give you an idea of what the program outline is here in the MSc in consumer psychology. So our focus is twofold. We are looking to educate you about how consumers make decisions and prepare you and ground you in that literature. We are also interested in developing you to be an extremely productive and competent employee should you move into industry, because our goal is kind of stunning performance once you hit the ground running, that you don't have weaknesses, that you know how to express your strengths, and you know how to make important differences for your company. So to do that, we build on your skills in data analysis, in design thinking. We also bring in industry leaders who give you tools and insights to try and kind of decipher industry. Because if you're coming to industry as a graduate, it's hard to understand what you're required to do. We're trying to give you the tips and insights that allow you to get in and distinguish yourself as knowing what matters in your job. The kind of insights that usually take years to develop through experience. And then we also focus on information system strategy and innovation. This is provided by the Business Information Systems team here at NUI Galway in the business school. And we look at strategic brand management, which is brought to us by the marketing school. So you are going to be working on data, generating insights from data, and connecting and looking at different bodies of work in consumer psychology. We have a particular interest in cross-cultural psychology and sustainable consumption as well. So what are the features? Well, we're going to train you in high demand skills in data analysis, data generation, and transversal skills. We have work-based projects that connect you to local and national organizations and give you a first look at companies, give them a first look at you. We have employers in our steering group. We analyze your core work skills, find the holes and fill them. We work on CV and interview preparation, and we prepare you for the world of tomorrow. We are always looking at we're trying to predict industry environment in 10 years time, because we want you to be ahead of the curve. And so we focus on cross-cultural issues because everything is local and global simultaneously, and climate change is the pressing issue of our time. If we are not developing business strategies that are informed by climate change, then we're dead in the water. So career prospects, a variety of different options in what we call the big data landscape. And so we're working with, for example, Genesis here in Galway at the moment with one of our work-based projects. We also have teams working with the incubator here in the Tech Transfer Office. And so we have a number of teams interested in working with us at the moment. As I said, we have a focus on sustainability. We train our students to think in the long term: economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and community sustainability. So you need to be thinking in all these ways at the same time in order for what you're developing to be something that can be maintained and generate long-term advantage. We also consider ourselves to be global citizens. From here in NUI Galway, we are on the Atlantic coast at the edge of Europe, but we are going to impact on every citizen across the world, and that's our goal. So we train our students to think locally and globally. So everywhere, every context that you need to affect, every cultural context you need to understand, they are all little local bubbles. And so you need to understand that local bubble, but also know how to impact it and how identify the commonalities across these communities. So understand, how do your consumers think? So if you're interested, email me at dennisohora@nuigalway.ie. And if there's some questions in the chat, I can pop back some answers to you. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope you consider the MSc in Consumer Psychology. Okay, so Kira, I think you're up next. So feel free to share there. I'll knock myself off. Stop share. Okay. Excellent.
Okay, fabulous. Thanks a million, Dennis, for all that. Okay, so nice to see you all virtually. My name is Kira Egan. I'm the course coordinator for the MSc in Clinical Neuroscience, and Professor Gary Donohoe is the course director. Forgot how to speak there for a second. Just before I go on, I've got my email address there on the first slide for any of you who might want to contact me afterwards with questions. Obviously pop them in the chat during as well. Okay, so kind of unlike the other courses mentioned, while this one is housed in the School of Psychology, it's very much a highly multidisciplinary course, which means you'll be taught across the colleges of arts, science, and medicine throughout the course. So your modules will really come from a variety of different schools. So some of our graduates have gone on to have careers in academic or clinical psychology, psychiatry, or more. And we accept applicants from a range of different subjects. So an undergrad degree in psychology or science-related subjects such as biomedical science, pharmacology, health-related occupations, so occupational therapy. Essentially, if you're unsure if your background might fit, feel free to get in contact with me. But we really do like having a nice kind of wide mix of students on the course. And we also tailor the course to your own background, as you'll see in a minute. So to give a brief overview, in semester one, we try and get all our students to kind of the same level on the fundamental subjects in neuroscience. So these cover topics such as neuroanatomy and neurophysiology, neuropharmacology, clinical and experimental neuroscience, and then we have a bunch of optional modules such as medical genomics, introduction to molecular and cellular biology, neuropsychology, and applied statistics. So what I mentioned about kind of tailoring the course, say for instance, this year we've got a student with a degree in pharmacology, so they won't be taking the neuropharmacology course. They would instead be bolstering some of the modules that they wouldn't have gotten in their undergrad training, such as neuropsychology. So similarly, if you come from a psychology degree, you wouldn't be taking applied statistics or neuropsychology, but you would be taking all of the kind of neuroscience subjects, such as neuroanatomy, that you haven't had as much training in. So it really is kind of geared towards getting everyone onto the same playing field in regards to kind of basic fundamental neuroscience. Okay, so that's semester 1. Then in semester 2, everyone does the same modules, and these are really focused on kind of applied methods in neuroscience. So these are research methods in neuroscience, which focuses on kind of statistical analysis, neuropsychological testing, and then other methods such as EEG. Then we've got human neuroimaging, which is taught by one of our colleagues in anatomy, and that's really focused on MRI, fMRI, and PET. And then we've got neuropsychiatry and mental health, which is taught by our colleagues over in psychiatry and takes place predominantly in the hospital. So it's really, as you can see, quite a broad range of things you do. And we try and keep it evenly focused on both the clinical side and also the research side. So the third semester, or the summer semester, is focused on the research project for your dissertation. So this takes place over 12 weeks between May and July, although students are allocated their supervisors in first semester, and then they submit their ethics in second semester. So by the time it actually starts, you have a really good idea what you will be doing in the summer. So supervisors for this come from the Galway Neuroscience Centre, which again is a highly multidisciplinary centre. So your supervisor could come from psychology, or they could come from psychiatry, anatomy, genetics, really anywhere where you get neuroscientists. So this year, students are working on things like EEG, MRI data, genetics data. Some are doing in vitro work with animal data. It really does run the gambit of different kind of disorders, populations, and different methods. I've got a link there to the Galway Neuroscience Centre website as well. So you can see the different types of research that happen and the different kind of supervisors you might have. And how this is assessed is via a written dissertation, which you submit in kind of early July, and then a scientific poster, which ideally you present to all of your kind of colleagues in psychology and neuroscience, other students, and then to the external examiner as well. So we hope to mimic the kind of experience of a research conference that way. Okay, so I mentioned the future options. They're pretty diverse. So similar to the other programs people have chatted about today, people go on to have academic careers. So they might do a PhD to go on into one of the areas of neuroscientific research, and then go on to stay in academia from there. A lot of our students go on to do further clinical training. And so as both Janice and Jenny have noted, if you want to do the clinical psychology doctorate, you would need a PSI accredited undergrad. So even though you can do this master's without a PSI accredited undergrad degree, you do still need that to go on and do the clinical doctorate. But a lot of our students who have that do go on to do clinical training. And a lot of them would then have the aim to become clinical neuropsychologist. And we have a senior clinical neuropsychologist on our teaching staff for that reason. They also some students go on to do clinical training in psychiatry as well. We've also had previous students go on to do mental health research outside of academia. So working for organizations like Jigsaw, or working in clinical research facilities, working on kind of large scale clinical trial stuff. So it's really interesting to see the different paths they end up taking afterwards. And speaking of which, I'm going to show you a quick testimonial from one of our previous students. So Megan Cowman graduated from the class of 2019, and she's a current PhD student in the department working with Professor Donoghue. And actually, excitingly enough, she's giving a guest lecture on the MSc next week. So she's come far in the 2 years. So I'll play this now and hopefully you can all hear it. Oh, no. It's always technical issues and it's always me.
Hi, my name is Megan. I completed the MSc in Clinical Neuroscience in 2019. What initially attracted me to the course was the range of opportunities that it offers. So coming from a psychology background myself, I was interested in broadening my knowledge of neuroscience. And I was able to do this through modules like neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, and pharmacology. I think that's one of the best things about the course is that you can build your optional modules. So depending on your academic background, you can choose from a variety of modules to suit your interests, from neuropsychiatry and mental.
Sorry, pause there for some reason.
Help to medical genomics. My favorite part of the course was the research project. Again, there's lots of different research topics and supervisors to choose from, and you can really focus on your particular interests. So for example, my supervisors were from psychiatry, so my research project had a bit of a clinical focus, but other students in the class worked with supervisors from neuroimaging, genetics, and neurology. The MSc is really multidisciplinary in nature, so there's opportunities to gain knowledge and experience in lots of different areas. And I think this puts you in a really good position going forward and can really open doors in terms of future prospects. I found this in my own experience, and since finishing the course, I've been working as a research assistant in the School of Psychology, and I'm starting a PhD next year. I think what I've learned and the skills I've gained through the course have really prepared me and put me in a competitive position for both of these opportunities.
Okay, so I'm glad we heard from Megan. I do like to embarrass her by showing off how great she's doing, but I promise all of our students are doing equally as well. And it is really great to see them all kind of come back and do well, which is good. And so just to finish off, Dennis kind of started with this, but I think NUIG really is the ideal place for a course such as this. So as I said, it's really multidisciplinary, so we get to interact with our great kind of research colleagues across different schools and different colleges. And as well, in the psychology building, we have a lot of kind of purpose-built equipment, like the EEG labs upstairs and the eye tracking equipment, that really makes it an ideal place to do neuroscience research. Okay, so that is it for me now. I'm happy to answer any questions that may have popped up while I've been chatting away to you.
Thanks very much, Kira. That's fantastic.
You mind if I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, Kira. I completed the Master's in Clinical Neuroscience this year, and I was just wondering, do you have like the 60 psychology credits to do the psychology HTIP conversion after doing this course, or would I have to do the 2-year one?
So is this to apply for kind of clinical psychology or?
Yeah, like I came from a biology background, so I don't have a PSI accredited psychology degree, and I'm looking to go back and do one. So I was just wondering, will I have to apply for the 2-year or the 1-year one?
That's a very good question. Can you pop me a line about that, and then I'll forward it on to Mark Elliott, who's the director of the program. Okay. And then he'll be able to get back to you with the detail on that. It's a really interesting question. I honestly don't know the answer, and so we'll look it up for you, Michael.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Michael. I've seen another general question in the chat that I also don't know the answer to, which is embarrassing to say.
So Jenny, you've probably the most experience of people applying while they're still in the second year. Do you have an answer for that one?
Yeah, so Medina, I'm not sure if you're an NUIG graduate or doing your degree at NUIG or somewhere else. So typically we can see the transcripts for NUI Galway students within the system. But if you are from somewhere else, it's a really good idea to load up your transcripts for the most recent year. So it'll give us a sense of, you know, where you're heading and what your final result might be. So brilliant if you have transcripts from second year to load those up. And what will happen is, based on your results to date for the Masters, you get a conditional offer, conditional on you then reaching that result for your final result. So yeah, do load them up if you had them. And I think if it's NUIG, we should be able to see them within the system. Outside NUIG, load them up. Okay, brilliant. Okay.
Thanks, Jenny. That's fantastic. Okay, now Jennifer, are you ready to go?
Yes, I think I am.
Great to see you again.
Well, actually, Dennis, is there any chance you could share it? Can you see that? Dennis?
Hi, Jennifer. So
There's something wrong with the share.
I'll just double check there and just see
Right.
whether see. I'm not sure if I have let me just double check if I've got a copy of the latest version, and then I can pop it
It's
up.
in the share drive.
Oh, excellent. Hopefully. Right. Just take 2 seconds before we can get on.
Yeah, sorry about this, everybody.
It's okay.
Kira, I think there's a question for you there in the chat box. I don't know if you want to respond in the chat or.
Yeah, I was typing away
Okay.
furiously there. Sorry, Nelly, I'll get back to you. I'm just very slow.
No problem.
I might just start talking anyway, because I'm conscious people will probably want to head off for lunch. So basically, my name is Jennifer Holloway. I'm a chartered behavioral psychologist and a board certified behavior analyst. And I've been working on the MSc in applied behavior analysis at NUIG since 2006, since we launched. And I'm looking for, well, I was hoping to be able to share the slides, but anyway, I want to talk a bit about what behavior analysis is, and then talk about the course. So ABA is the science of how we learn, how we interact with our environments. It's focused on the use of evidence-based practices to teach socially significant behaviors to individuals. And throughout the use of ABA, we are very highly focused on evaluation and monitoring of performances so that we can best individualize interventions to suit the client that we're working with. In addition, we also, within behavior analysis, we contribute towards, we'll go back one, yeah, that's fine, Dennis. We contribute towards the science of behavior analysis. We do a lot of work in terms of research and applied research. So here, I'm going to talk a little bit in and out of the slides. Hold on. Talk about the applications of behavior analysis. So if you're interested in coming on to the program, you're probably thinking about, well, what can I do with a qualification in applied behavior analysis? Well, we teach students to work with children, young adults, preschoolers, adults, etc., across the lifespan, and then focusing on a range of differential diagnoses. So individuals or participants or students are taught how to use evidence-based practices with individuals with autism, or typically developing children, for example, in a preschool setting. Or we might be doing early intensive behavioral interventions with families. We might be looking at working within the health service in terms of behavioral support for challenging behavior. We might be looking at working within educational settings, within school settings, working using precision teaching, or we might move on and work with adult populations who are in cognitive decline, helping them in terms of using fluency-based interventions. We might look at further looking at maybe specific feeding interventions or sleep interventions, etc. But the main point really is that the science of ABA helps us to understand behavior across the lifespan, and then across abilities or diagnoses. So we can work across multiple settings. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Yeah. So with behavior analysis, then we'll go on to the next one. Thanks, Dennis. The next one. Yeah, our course. So the program itself is a 2-year course with modules covering a range of topics. So we will do behavioral assessment and interventions, research methods, clinical behavioral interventions. For example, we touch on cognitive behavioral therapy. We touch on ACT. We look at the applications of behavior analysis across developmental disabilities. We also look at professional skills training as well, and clinical practice skills, so working as part of multidisciplinary teams. So you can get a sense that the program itself covers a broad scope of skills. So we're looking at teaching people to work within a scientist practitioner model. So we're learning all the theory in terms of behavior analysis, and then the application within the community. A large part of what we do is focused on clinical placements. So our students will participate on clinical placements across, again, a wide range of different placements. They cover 3 placements per one per term, starting in year 1, term 2, and then doing a placement in the second year, term 1, and the second year, term 2. And those placements then are part of your training. This is where you learn how to apply the practices within real world settings. And during those placements, those clinical placements, you receive clinical supervision while you're on placement from board certified behavior analysts as well. Another nice aspect of the program is that we do have an MSc in Applied Behavior Analysis International. And this allows students in their second year to take a placement in the United States. So they can go to the New England Center for Children in Boston and have an opportunity to learn clinical skills within that environment. And then just on the right-hand corner there, you see just a number of different affiliated placements that work with our students while they're on the course. And we also have a number of psychologists and behavioral psychologists from those various placements coming in to deliver guest lectures and share their experiences of using ABA within those settings. Okay, I'll just pop into the next one. Just in terms, I'll just talk about the application. So our course code is 1ABA1, and again, you apply through the online portal. It's slightly different from some of the other programs because our closing date is March 31st. And then after that, we process the applications, and students are invited for an interview. The requirements for accessing the course is a 2-1 honours degree, typically in psychology or psychological studies or a related field. So this probably speaks to the question earlier on psychological studies, where could you go? And then from our program, the students then can go on to pursue a chartership as a chartered psychologist, but this would need to come onto somebody would need to come onto the program with a course that is PSI accredited. If you have psychological studies, you can still graduate as a behavior analyst. Okay, and our current students then can work in a wide range of different fields. A lot go into work in the health service, in disability services, some work in school settings or educational settings, some in private work, consulting, early intervention work, etc. And then there's quite a number of employment opportunities outside of Ireland. For example, the USA, the United Emirates, Switzerland, Italy and Australia. Other students then have opportunities to move on to do a PhD in ABA, and we have a very good dynamic team involved in the PhD program, supervising research across a wide range of topics, from virtual reality to parent supports to precision teaching, etc. So there's quite a range of different avenues that students can take following the Masters in ABA. So I'm sorry I rushed this slight bit, but I just wanted to leave some time there in case anybody had any particular questions.
Thanks very much, Jennifer. Sorry about the technical boo-boos there in the background. Anybody, any questions for any of the speakers today? Okay.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Sorry. Sorry. I just have a quick question. I have a degree in postgrad from NUIG, High 2-1, but it was corporate law and LLB. But I have, in the last few years, got very interested in autism. I have a child with autism, and I suppose I have that experience of what it's like living with someone with autism. And I'm very interested in the ABA postgrad. And from looking at your website, it didn't say that you needed to have a psychology degree to apply. So I just want to check, is it possible for me to apply, or is it restricted to psychology graduates?
Yeah, no, it's not restricted to psychology graduates. I think it would be a good idea maybe if you wanted to email, and we could maybe set up a meeting and just talk a little bit more about the program to see if it's fitting your needs. Like we do cover autism as part of the MSc and ABA, but it is about the wide application of behavior analysis across populations and across age ranges.
Okay.
But you would be welcome to apply if you choose.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much.
No problem.
I think it's, often just contacting the course director is a good way to get the conversation going as well. And you can then, you can learn a lot. It's nice. I think we all welcome that.
I think, Jennifer, there's another question for you in the chat box there.
Yeah, so the question there for those of you who mightn't see it is, how many places are available on the MSc Behaviour Analysis, and when is the closing date? So I think you said the closing date is in March, is it?
Yeah, so we take 20 students, and the reason that the cohort is small is because of the amount of time that we invest in each student. So it's highly supervised. So you have clinical placements where we will go out and visit you on your work placement and give you supervision there. And then we do small group work as well, and group supervision as well. So it's very intensive in terms of the supervision requirements. And then, the closing date is March 31st. And then we tend to have the interviews possibly mid to late April.
Great. There's a general question there as well, asking about, so this is from Nellie asking, I'm a psych studies student aiming to get onto the HDIP conversion. Is this program the only way to get a PSI accredited degree with psych studies in NUI Galway? So the psych studies, if you do the HDIP conversion, that's a 1-year program that then means that you have a PSI accredited degree after 1 year. Now, at NUI Galway, none of the other programs we have are designed for that specific outcome. Now, I'm wondering as well if your question is, are there 1-year programs in other universities that might be suitable? I think there might be, but obviously I wouldn't really be able to speak about them today. I don't know them in detail. Hopefully I've answered that question there, Nellie. So we're at 1:05 now. So, oh great, that's good, Nellie. Thanks. Anyone have any quick questions before we go? No, okay. So it all just leaves to me to just say thank you all very much for spending time out of your busy day to be here with us and ask us all these questions. Whatever you choose, I wish you the very best of luck in your future studies. We're all looking to improve psychology by bringing on the best talent that Ireland and the world has to offer. So we're really delighted that you spent some time with us today. And thanks to all of our directors who did a great job today in terms of letting you know what the programs entail. So thank you very much, and hope to see some of you in next year. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.